Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Matt Report, courtesy of AM 930 WEOL and the Chronicle Telegram. Tim Alcorn with the radio station, AM 930, and Shaun Bennett with the CT. Each and every week, we get together on this weekly video to talk high school wrestling in Lorain County in the Northeast Ohio area. And again, a great big thank you goes out to our sponsor, the Cobos Insurance Center. As always, Shaun, great to be with you on this weekly video, and certainly a lot to talk about this week as far as wrestling last weekend on the mats, and also some wrestling action coming up this weekend.
Right, and it's it's not even the weekends anymore. The wrestling's moving into the midweek area now. We've got the state dual team tournament going. Full swing, started last week, continues tomorrow. We have the conference duels going, and the conference tournaments actually start this weekend coming up.
Wow.
So everything's kind of like happening now. It's a lot of fun. I'm all over the place. I'm loving it. But yeah, it's really in high swing right now.
Well, I saw your byline in the Chronicle Telegram a few times. So let's talk a little bit about what you went out and covered last weekend and what really caught your attention.
Yeah, well, obviously the day after we shot our last video, we had the first rounds of the regional dual tournament. Unfortunately, only two of our local teams were able to get through that first day because they actually wrestle up to 3 rounds depending on the site, all the way into the semifinals. And even more unfortunately, the 2 teams that made it through face each other tomorrow night. Elyria and Midview made it through in the Division I tournament. They square off in the regional semifinals tomorrow, and the winner of that gets into the regional final to face either the winner of Oregon Clay or Findlay for the chance to go down to Columbus and compete in the state duels.
Anything in particular about either Elyria or Midview that kind of grabbed your attention that we can look forward to now on Thursday night?
Well, Elyria was the top seed, as they have been for several years, and they kind of easily made their way, as they were expected to, into the regional semis. Midview was the 3 seed, and they upset the number 2 seed, Fremont Ross, in a pretty good match. They were up early. Fremont Ross rallied and took the lead with 2 weights left, and then Midview won the last 2 weights to win the duel. So it was kind of exciting. Good match win for them. It's the farthest they've ever been. They've never made it to the regional semis before. They will be the underdog against Elyria. I kind of expect Midview to be the favorite in the final 4 weight classes. They have some really good guys in those weight classes, and Elyria's got some younger guys that are still kind of learning their way into that big spotlight that's on Elyria's program. Elyria will be probably favored in most of the other weight classes, so I think Midview's kind of goal there is to maybe win a couple of those matches where they might be evenly matched in those first 10 weights. Try to keep that score close enough that in the last 4 weights they can win those matches and score bonus, which I expect them to do.
Shaun, for people who are watching this right now and are wondering, well, what's the difference between the dual team and what you would normally see? Explain that difference.
Yeah, the individual wrestling tournament, which is the one that's been going for decades now, is a bracketed tournament where they basically they start on 3 levels. They do the sectional, district, and then the state tournament. And they basically, all the guys go into their weight classes and they wrestle through brackets. They get seeded for what they did in the regular season and they wrestle through. And then they take the top 4 from the sectionals and they move on to the district. Top 4 from the districts move on to the state to the point where you have 16 man fields down at the individual state wrestling tournament, and those 16 wrestle to eventual individual state championships. Now, they still award team trophies at those events because if you get so many guys in, like St. Edward Elyria for the last few years have in the Division I tournament have gotten in double-digit wrestlers. So those wrestlers then accumulate points, and then the teams themselves, depending on how many points their wrestlers at the state tournament accumulate, can win trophies. And St. Edward's won, I think, the last several years. And Elyria's come in second 3 years in a row to St. Edward.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that works. Then the dual team tournament is simply you're taking your entire team down and facing other teams in the same type of format. But it's 8 teams. The top 8 teams go down to St. John Arena in Columbus basically 2 Sundays from now, and they will basically face off. You'll have the number 1 seeded team versus the 8. They'll face off all 14 guys, all 14 weight classes against each other, and then the winner moves on to the next round, all the way up into a final where the top two teams will battle, which is expected to be St. Edward and St. Paris Graham, who is normally a Division II team. They are a Division II team, but they petitioned the OHSA to move up to Division I this year because there are several nationally ranked teams in Division I, and St. Paris Graham is also nationally ranked, so they wanted it's going to be fireworks down there. It's going to be explosive. So that's what the big difference is.
And I would imagine, from what we have heard and people that we've talked to and coaches and the like, the dual team tournament has become very, very popular.
Yeah, it's become popular among fans and teams. Not so popular probably for the OHSA. They have not yet made any money on this tournament, so they're changing things up next year. This year they changed to one site on the first one. Next year they're changing it so the regional is going to be all on one day. So instead of breaking it up over 2 Wednesdays, they're going to do it on a Saturday, and all the regional tournaments going to go one. They're trying to find ways to make this a viable option, a secondary option to the tournament. If they don't, I fear that it's going to be short-lived in this tournament, which is only, I think, in its 6th year, might not even, see double digits. So hopefully they'll find a way to do this so that, they're not losing money, they're not losing, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, or whatever they're losing, and we can keep this thing going for years to come.
All right, before we pivot ahead to what's coming up this weekend, any final thoughts on what you saw or what went down last weekend on the mats?
I saw a lot of good stuff. Well, one, I want to talk about the West Holmes tournament. Midview and Keystone were both there. Midview finished second out of 17 teams. That's a sizable field, and they finished up with the runner-up trophy there, so that was real impressive. They had 9 placers and 4 finalists. Zach Anderson and Trevor Began both finished with championships. Jacob Snyder and Daniel Bucknovich were both runners-up. So really nice there. Clearview also wanted to mention them because Robert Mcardle, J.D. Mcardle brothers at Clearview both won championships there. First time in their career, and I believe J.D.'s a senior. Robert, I believe, is junior, maybe I think. I'd have to double check. I'm sorry, but I know he's younger. But they both won championships for the first time. So that's a special family moment for those two guys to go in and win titles for the first time together, right near the end of JD's senior year. So really impressive cool. there. And then I would also mention that Elyria had a real nice matchup against CVCA. They're both ranked in the Elyria's 4th in the Division I as far as state-ranked teams. CVCA's 3rd in Division II. They came in and put on a battle Saturday with some real high-end matchups. That was super impressive to watch, too.
Super impressive. Yes, I knew we'd get one in this week. All right, well, speaking of this week, what's coming up this week that we should keep an eye on?
Well, like I said, it's going to be action-packed. Starting tomorrow night, we've got the Division I dual-team regionals, the semifinals and the finals. So we already kind of mentioned that setup. That's going to be at Elyria High. It starts at 5 with Midview and Elyria facing each other.
If you're watching this on Thursday, by the way, it's tonight.
Yeah, no, Wednesday.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
It's Wednesday night.
Now I got my taping days all mixed up. All right, if you're watching this on Wednesday, it's tonight.
Yeah, yes. And then Thursday I'll be over at Midview because Midview's hosting Berea Mid-Park in a pretty big Southwestern Conference showdown. Right now, those two schools and Olmsted Falls are all on top of the leaderboard with 1 loss, dual meet loss, and they're battling in that conference right now. Everybody's kind of like knocking each other off, so it's pretty explosive. It's going to be a great conference tournament in a few weeks, but right now that's going to be a big end because they get 50% of the championship with the dual meets and 50% from the tournament at the end of the year. So it's going to be pretty pressure-filled dual meet. It's going to be exciting as well.
All right.
Well, go ahead. We move on to the weekend real quick. I just want to say Elyria going to be competing in their conference tournament. We already got conference tournaments coming up, which I mentioned.
Wow.
The Greater Cleveland Conference at Euclid, and Lorraine is at the Lake Erie League conference tournament at Maple Heights. So 2 conference tournaments already starting.
Where is this season going? It's flying by.
Yeah. Well, then because the conference tournaments stretch over about 3 weekends. You've got the state dual state tournament the weekend after, and then right after all that sectional start, and we go into the postseason.
Boy, that's incredible. All right, well, we mentioned at the outset, our sponsor is the Cobos Insurance Center. You know what that means, Shaun? Yes. It's time for the tip of the cap, courtesy of the Cobos Insurance Center. Well, earlier, you mentioned Clearview. Something tells me a Clipper wrestler might be deserving of the tip of the cap.
Yeah, we're going to give our tip of the cap this week to senior J.D. Mcardle. J.D., like I said, won his first tournament with his brother where they won together, so that's kind of a special moment. But he also went in there and went 4-0. They were at the just to let everybody know, they were at the Dave Rohr Classic at Mapleton High. Went in there and went 4-0 with 4 pins. He's now 42-2 this season with 40 pins.
Wow.
40 pins. I don't know if I can remember somebody getting into the 40 pin mark in 1 year, because usually you get a 40 wins, or that's pretty impressive in 1 year. 40 pins in 1 year, wow. That's impressive.
That's deserving of the
impressive.
tip of the cap.
Worth the tip of the cap for sure. So yeah, that's outstanding season for that young man for his senior year.
40 out of 42 wins.
42 wins, 40 pins. Pretty impressive.
That's awesome. Yes, deserving of the tip of the cap. All right. Well, Bruce Bishop, working his magic behind the camera, says we've got to wrap things up. So now next week, I won't be sitting in this chair. I'll have next week off as far as the video is concerned. But, Shaun, I'm sure you're going to find somebody that's going to be very entertaining sitting here.
Yeah, we'll get
It's
somebody.
up to you.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll just sit here and do some, cartwheels or something, and it won't happen. But we'll figure something out. We'll gotta get that news to the people out there. And again, I do want to say I've had a lot of people come up and give us great feedback on the video, so I do appreciate that. Every time I'm covering something, now that I'm covering things, people are out there saying the video is awesome. They love it, so I do appreciate that. If you are watching this, feel free to retweet, repost, depending on whatever social media you are. Get it out there to the wrestling fans, because I really like the fact that we've done this format, and it seems that people are enjoying it. So share the wealth. Give it out there.
I love that. Yes, share and retweet and do all those things that you can do to get the word out. Very good. All right, that's going to do it. Again, we thank Bruce Bishop for doing his thing behind the camera. Shaun, thanks to you. And, of course, the biggest thanks goes to you for watching. We appreciate it. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Matt Report.